Hello, everybody. Today we are going to be reviewing, well, Scott Pilgrim, the whole series, in fact. Well, I shouldn't say the whole series. But anyways, let's get started with, just the basic idea of Scott Pilgrim, which is the first six volumes of the books. I'm not going to sit here and really read you every single book, but I will tell you this. The first book is Scott Pilgrim's Precious Little Life. It's pretty good. Um, it's not too long, obviously. It is a graphic novel, so it's not going to be too long. But it is in black and white, and it also comes in color editions. And on the note of color editions, as a part of my collection, I would like to replace this black and white copy, my black and white copies, with the colored editions because they've been out for a minute. But these are the original copies. These were the first copies of these books that I bought. And when I say original, I don't mean first edition. I just mean these are the copies of the books that I bought. I've never gotten rid of them. So yeah. So the first book basically deals with Scott Pilgrim. Clearly, uh, he's 23. He's exiting high school, and he started to date. He started he's starting to date this chick named Knives Chow, and that's honestly something that you can see in the movie. Now, between the movie and the book, there are some very good differences, like the ending. The boss fight at the ending with Gideon is completely different from the movies. Um, the way that the way that Gideon has control over Ramona, that is somewhat similar. Somewhat. I say somewhat because there are mentions of chips in both, but in the book, it has more to do with um, a bigger idea that they play with in the book that's known as subspace, which um, in the video game they also do explore that idea a little bit with like subspace being hidden inside the levels. So like as you play the levels, you can just find a subspace spot and just go into it, and it'll teleport you to like a later spot in the level. It basically works as Mario's warp pipes in Super Mario Bros. But that's for the game. Now, in the book, how subspace works is it's a place that Ramona has known about. She learned about it while in America before she came to Canada, or before she went to Canada, I should say. And that's actually where Scott ends up finding her. Is while he's asleep, he's able to go into subspace, and that's how they first meet. Is through his dreams, which is kind of weird when you think about it. He's just meeting the girl of his dreams. Yeah. So that's really the first book. The whole entire first book really just has to deal with Scott, coming to terms with wanting to date Ramona and having to fight the first evil X. So that's where the first book ends off at. Now, um, the second book is titled Scott Pilgrim versus the World. Now, you will notice that this is the book that they take the title from the movie and the album and the video game for. Um, which I don't find that, too weird. Now, I don't believe that to be too weird. Clearly, um, the name Scott Pilgrim's Precious Little Life for a movie would have been weird, and you know, it just doesn't make sense to title the other ones like Scott Pilgrim Gets Together, Scott Pilgrim versus the Universe. Though that would be a great sequel title if Edgar Wright ever wants to make that sequel. And then it wouldn't make sense to call it Scott Pilgrim's Finest Hour either. But what I do find interesting is something I just noticed in these books, which is almost between every title, there is some different way of styling, or not styling, but there is some different way of titling it. Like the first book, they call it Precious Little Life. The second one, they say he's versing the world. The third one is him facing the infinite sadness. The fourth book is just titled Scott Pilgrim Gets It Together. He's not fighting anything, it's just about him. The fifth book is him versus the universe, and then the sixth book is literally his finest hour. Now, book two, like I was saying, it has to deal with Scott Pilgrim versus the world. What he ends up doing is he ends up fighting both, um, if I'm correct here, he fights both X's 2 and 3. Yeah, he fights X2, and then towards the end of the book, he we find out who X3 is. But every single book, each book, has its own moments. I kid you not. There's a great moment in this book right here in Volume 2 of Scott Pilgrim versus the World, i.e., this one, number 2, where we literally have just a section, just a whole, like, a whole 2 pages, left and right section, of just Stephen Stills and everybody cooking together. And it's just kind of funny. It's just one of those like smaller, little funnier jokes that you could see working in a movie, but you know it probably would get cut out for time and pacing reasons. Now, onto the third book. So the third book is Scott Pilgrim versus the Infinite Sadness. And this one, what Scott Pilgrim has to deal with is now he has to fight Ramona's third evil ex. And with that being said, once he fights the third evil ex, he also starts having to deal with um, his own exes, i.e., Envy Adams, who is the lead singer of the band that they went to go to see that night at the end of book 2. You should really give the book series a read. I don't want to spoil a lot of the book or a lot of the movie in this review. So this review is more or less just going to be a somewhat spoiler-free review, if you will. But I need to get moving because we're already 7 minutes into this, and there's 3 more books, a movie, and a record, and possibly a game to cover. So, book 4, Scott Pilgrim Gets Together. In this one, he ends up fighting the evil exes 4 and 5. Bet you didn't see that one. 2 X's in one book. Hey, and we just get a lot of really good character development in book 4. A lot of great character development. And it really towards the end of the book, it really just kind of sets up the stakes for Scott Pilgrim's Volume 5 and 6. Um, and actually, my bad on that. Book 4, I don't even think he fights anybody. I shit you not. It's either book 3 or 4, and that's on my end that I'm forgetting this. But we do have a book where he just doesn't fight anybody. And I do believe it to be this one. Let me make sure. Yeah. So book 4, we're not even witnessing Scott Pilgrim really fight anybody. It's more or less just the character development, understanding who he is, where he's come from, what's led him to this. Now, like I said, book 5 is Versus the Universe, and this is the one where when I finished it, I was like, holy shit, I need the ending, It's in volume 5 that he actually fights X's 5 and 6, um, who are in the movie and in the book the Katanagi twins. Now, the fights between the movie and the book are drastically different in really volumes 5 and 6 for the boss, or not the boss fights, but for the evil X's fights. Um, so yeah, on that note, we move on to book 6. There's a big ending in 5. And yeah, I just don't want to spoil these endings. Each book has a really good ending, or just some kind of nice little footnote to leave it off of. Book 6, Scott Pilgrim's Finest Hour. This is the final book in the whole series. Beyond a free comic book day comic that Brian O'Malley had released himself in the Scott Pilgrim universe, this is the final thing in the series. This is where our story ends. And I will say this, yes, he does fight Gideon in book 6, which is amazing. It's really great. Um, but if you've seen the movie, or if you have played the video game, which I don't think a lot of people really have, you will know how it goes in one of those. So if you've seen the movie, if you've seen this thing, do not expect the same ending. It really is not the same ending. I mean, it's somewhat the same ending, but but let me express that. But the setups and everything that the book sets up for itself, personally, I think has it just feels better than the movie. But I'm not dogging on the movie because I love the movie, and I just think the movie's really good. So there we go. That is the book series. Now let's move on to the movie. Now, like I just said in the previous section, the movie soundtrack is actually pretty good. I enjoy it, to be honest. Um, and there is actually a very good surprise on here. There are some tracks that are pretty much exclusive to this record, such as Metric's Black Sheep. I know it's not entirely exclusive to this album, but just the fact that they included the song from the movie where it's like hello again, friend of a friend, just the fact that they included it onto the album, when in and of itself it's serving as a setup to the scene in the movie. I was very surprised when I saw that. And then not only that, but there's also some exclusive songs by the artist Beck that you might know from his song "Loser," which is like really his nowadays his more bigger known hits beyond E Pro, which I honestly prefer E Pro over Loser, but we don't listen to E Pro anymore because it's 2021. So this vinyl, in and of itself, it was one of the first vinyls I had to find. I had to buy. Why? Because I love this series. It's one of my favorite series out there. And yeah, I like the motion picture soundtrack. Surprisingly, I don't know. I really haven't met a lot of people who do, or who just tend to enjoy music picture soundtracks. When I do, it's normally like the normal soundtracks, like Beauty and the Beast or The Lion King or stuff like that. And I don't mind if people enjoy those. It's when it's all you listen to. I shit you not. I love this soundtrack. I really do. I do. But that doesn't mean I'm sitting there and I have half of the thing in my playlist in the car, just sitting there. The lion sleeps tonight. No, 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 no. I don't. If anything, I have one track. I actually shit you not. Now that I'm looking over this vinyl, I have one track from this vinyl in my liked playlist that I will play anytime. Anytime. Now, that's not saying that it's not a bad soundtrack, and I actually do want to make a correction to my statement I just said, which is there's actually three tracks from this record that I like, and that I actually do keep in my frequent rotation of songs. One of them being "It's Getting Boring by the Sea" by Blood Red Shoes. I don't know what it is. I just really enjoy that song. Mm. But back to the video at hand here. This vinyl, I really enjoyed it, and it has some really cool features that I think you guys will all enjoy too. So, if you will, follow me. Right off the bat, this is going to be the first side, and you can see it has a I don't want to say animated, but it does have a designed center. And as you can already see through the vinyl that is poking out, yes, this vinyl is red. It is see-through red. I can see the camera right now through this, and I'm also looking through the hole, but y'all can't tell. But yes, this album is see-through red. You can kind of see me through it, and I think that's very cool, and it does also fit with the aesthetic of Scott Pilgrim, kind of. I mean, when you look at the movie cover. So this right here is the movie. Now, I know some of you people will be saying, "Oh, Dylan, how come you have a DVD?" Well, just get off my back about that, okay? I know a lot of people have been making the move to digital streaming services. I know a lot of people have been making the moves to Blu-ray, and believe me, this is a movie I want to get on Blu-ray for sure. But I want to get a special edition Blu-ray. I don't just want to go out and buy like the $7.50 Target Blu-ray. No, I wanna find like the $20 like 2-3 disc limited edition collector's edition, because this is just one of those properties that I really enjoy. Like I've said in live streams and stuff like that. But this movie really well done. It's filmed by Edgar Wright, and if you don't know who Edgar Wright is, you should know by now because man's a pretty good director. He's made such movies as Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, The World's End, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, Baby Driver. There's just a lot of movies he's made. He's also done the TV show Spaced. If you know about Spaced, then you definitely know about Edgar Wright. But beyond that, this movie is made by Edgar Wright. It stars Michael Cera and Mary Elizabeth Winstead. Now, these were surprisingly, this is a lot of breakout roles. You'll find Captain America in this movie before he was America's ass. That's how old this movie is. And like I've said, 2021 is the 10th anniversary of this movie. So this movie came out in 2011, just before the MCU came out. So it's one of those movies that came out at just the right time to catch all these actors just before they blew up like that. If you don't know who Mary Elizabeth Winstead is, then let me just tell you some things she's been in. 10 Cloverfield Lane, Final Destination 3, Scott Pilgrim, obviously. And that's really all I can remember her from. I know I've seen her in some other movies and stuff, but I just can't quite remember it at this moment. At this very second, I can't remember it. And then Michael Cera, well, if you're my age, you'll definitely know who Michael Cera is. Michael Cera's been in this movie. He's been in Juno. He's been in The World's End, where he smacks Rihanna's ass while he's on coke. Wish I could insert a clip, but copyrights. Um, he was in Superbad. Michael Cera's been in a lot of stuff, and if you don't know him from movies, then you might know him from a show called Arrested Development. But, anyways, beyond that, um, there's also the person who plays Wallace. Or fuck, there's a person who plays Scott's roommate named Wallace, and he was actually in a pretty good recent movie with Val Kilmer's son, and that movie was called Lords of Chaos, and I actually do want to do a review of that movie sometime soon. Uh, but he plays really good Wallace Wells in this, and I do love how this is actually one of the few comic book movies, technically a comic book movie, that really decided to stick with source material. If you don't know, I'll let you know that Edgar Wright and Brian Lee O'Malley actually helped each other on the movie. I know that just sounds kind of crazy, right? Where the author of a comic book helps the director, and the director actually accepts the help. He doesn't just want to make the story on his own, and that's part of the reason why Edgar Wright is so great, because he actually puts care into his projects. He actually does stuff to make it good. But anyways, so Brian Lee O'Malley actually helped them create this, and when you watch this after reading the books, or you watch this then you read the books, you'll notice right off the bat there's a lot of shit that's copy and paste. But what makes the movie very interesting from the books is this simple little factoid of the books and the movie were being made at the same time, much like Twilight or other book series of the time when they were getting made into movies, i.e., Hunger Games, Divergent, fucking Twilight, like I just said. When those are all being made, this is this is one of those movies that's in that boat too, where the books are being done at the same time as the movie. Well, I'll tell you this: you're gonna start noticing things right off the bat if you either watch the movie then read the books, and the book to the movies, vice versa. And I'll tell you this: you'll get about into part two, maybe part three of the books before you really start noticing the differences between them. And that may sound like a bad thing, but it's not. That's actually a very good thing because it changes up the ending fights very differently. Like if I'm saying it's very different, then you know it's probably going to be very different. Well, wait a minute. What am I saying when I say that? This is the first video of reviews. If you know me though, then when I say something like that, you know that it does have a pretty good different amount in difference. Um, so yeah, this movie is pretty star-studded cast. Before they were all famous or majorly famous, it's one of my favorites. It's in the top three, if not, it's number one. And yeah, I just all in all, I think it was a pretty good movie. I enjoyed it, and there's just a lot of stuff that I could really get into. But if I started doing that, it would just be like this would be a 30-minute segment probably. I kid you not. So from here, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the movie soundtrack because movie soundtrack pretty good. Oh my god! We have to talk about the game now. Holy shit. Okay. So there is actually a video game to this whole entire series, all right here. However, I will say this right now. This game is pretty fucking awesome. Okay, look. I'm not a huge fan of beat 'em ups. All right, I enjoy my typical Simpsons arcade game. I enjoy my typical playthrough of that because that was just a game I grew up on. I enjoy a little bit of Battletoads every now and then, but I do enjoy my Scott Pilgrim game. I can't quite figure it out, you know. As a kid, I tend to enjoy my Simpsons games. I tend to enjoy the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle arcade game because I found it once and I really loved it. It was fun as hell. However, when I was younger, after I saw this movie, okay, when I saw this beautiful, beautiful movie, um, I ended up going on my Xbox 360 one day, and on that Xbox 360, I went into the Xbox store, whatever it was called at the time, and I went to go, just look for free demos and stuff like that because I had an Xbox Live trial for 48 hours, and I was like, you know what, I could probably go find some demos, maybe a free game or something. I could find something to entertain myself since I have access to Wi-Fi for once in my life on my console. So one day, when I'm doing that, I come across Scott Pilgrim versus the World, the game. Now, right off the bat, I was a little skeptical. Like, wait, did they really make a fucking game of this? Does this look like a game to you? Yes, and that answer was yes, absolutely yes. This looks like a great fucking game. I shit you not. I would just love to put footage of the game right here and just have you guys watch it. But you know what? Copyright. Copyright, copyright, copyright. I'm so afraid of getting copyright striked in my own reviews. I'm not even gonna use the footage. Like that's the thing is I could play this game. I could try to capture footage. I could create recordings. I could create screenshots. I could do all of that. but I have a fear of copyright strike. Why? Because it happens everywhere. Seriously, everywhere. And I need to learn a little bit more about copyright. So, bear with me, please. So back in 2011 to 2013, the original release of the Scott Pilgrim game was on the Xbox Live Arcade, or the Xbox Live services. It was on PlayStation Network, and it was just about anywhere you could physically get game, except for PCs. They didn't do a release for the PC, at least to my knowledge. Now, with that being said, between 2011 and 2013, they had these games available, right? These games were available for just about anybody to download, purchase, and find more people to be fans of this series right here. But the reason I say 2013 is because that was the year that, for some reason, that reason being licensing, the game was taken down from its stores. And me being the 11 to 13-year-old I was at the time, I was stuck with a demo. The demo was of the very first level of this game. I played that demo for a decade. Almost a decade. I say a decade, but it's really 9 years. I played that one starting level for 9 years. And eventually, after like a year of playing that starting level and always getting to freaking Matthew Patel. Matthew Patel! The first Evil X. It took me almost a year to figure out how to beat him. Mind you, I was kind of stupid on beat 'em ups at the time. So, with that being said, when 2020 rolled around, and that whole year was the shit show it was, we know why. I was super ecstatic and very happy to hear that they would be returning Scott Pilgrim versus the World, the game, to Xbox, to PlayStation, to all of the platforms that are now available to players, to people who play games, people who enjoy movies, just people in general. So much so, well, that I bought the game. I bought the game. You know, I'm 20. I'm 20 at this point. I got my own money, and you know what? I bought the game finally. It took me almost a decade to buy the game. And here's the thing. I played through that first level, beat it that very night, and it felt the exact same way it always has. That way being awesome. Now, I don't know if this review would really change anybody's mind on wanting to read the books or watch the movie, or at least take a listen to the soundtrack maybe to see if it piques your interest, or maybe just look at some gameplay of the game. But I will tell you this. The movie is very fun. The books are very enjoyable, and if you're a fan of both, you'll like the soundtrack. The game, some people really don't like, and I can't quite really understand why. Now, I do know that that just happened. I just noticed it. We'll just ignore that. But the game, despite it being all good and everything, I feel like it is one of the slightly weaker aspects in the Scott Pilgrim, uh, how do I say this? The Scott Pilgrim Entertainment franchise property. It just feels like one of the weaker links of the Scott Pilgrim property. And I'm not saying it's horrible. I really enjoy it. But yet again, I'm also a really big fan of the series. It's just a series I love, I have a personal connection with, and I've just always enjoyed it ever since my first viewing of the movie. I kid you not, when I saw this movie for the first time, I just loved it. I thought it was a great movie, and I still think it's a good movie to this day. Now, have my opinions changed as to how great it is? Absolutely. I know it's not the best movie of all time, but I can certainly treat it like it. in my own personal opinion. But in my reviewer's opinion, you don't have to see this movie, but it's a damn good watch. It's a pretty good watch, especially if you enjoy just just the general idea of this kid. Not even really a kid. He's 20. He's in his 20s, and he just hangs out. If you're okay, if you love pop culture, you might like Scott Pilgrim. I honestly would give it a 50-50 chance on people. Half of the people would love it, half of the others won't. But I personally think it's great, and I think everybody should see this movie. But from my reviewer standpoint, I'd say that the movie probably has its own thing. The, the game is its own thing. The books are their own thing. Now, the game, I wouldn't I wouldn't say the game is horrible. I know I've already said that. I really do enjoy it. It's just if you don't like side-scrolling games, if you don't like beat 'em ups, and you definitely don't like mini boss rushes, you might not enjoy this game. But if you are a fan of the series, right here, this whole thing, then you might enjoy it. Because I know I do. But anyways, on that note, I think I will be seeing you guys next time. Please do leave a like, and if you enjoyed the video, definitely subscribe. I really don't want to be saying that, so I'm not gonna say it. All I will say is if you liked it, just subscribe. You don't even really have to subscribe. Just leave a like on the video. Let me know I'm doing good. Hell, don't even forget about that, okay? If I did a good job, just leave a comment down below, okay? I don't even want to like. I don't want subscribes. I would love the subscribes, but just leave a comment below. Let me know, okay? Because this is the first attempt at the reviews. I definitely think for the 20th anniversary. No, I'm kidding. We're not gonna do. We might. We'll see where this goes. If I'm doing pretty good 9 years down the road from here, I might do a 20th anniversary re-review, and just make a better review. It'll be a lot better made. Um, as if I ever choose to do that down the line. Like I just said, this is the very first thing. So, yeah. But beyond that, I hope everybody has a very good day, and I hope that everybody has a great 2021, or whatever year you be watching this in. I hope you have a great one, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!